right, let's read a little bit about property here. So he says, God, who hath given the world to men in common. So again, this is common with the founding fathers and also with John Locke here. They believe that all of this was given to us by God. Those inalienable rights given us by God. So God's a big player here. So God, who hath given the world to men in common, hath also given them reason to make use of it to the best advantage of life and convenience. So God gave us this planet, but he also gave us the ability to make use of it. Plant things, grow things, take metal out of the earth, make buildings, make iPads, make, whatever we can make out of it. God's given us this planet to do with what we think is best, according to John Locke. Let's see, the earth and all that is therein is given to men for the support and comfort of their being. And though all the fruits it naturally produces and beasts it feeds belong to mankind in common, so he says the whole planet belongs to all of us collectively. We all own it together. As they are produced by spontaneous hand of nature. And it belongs to all of us because we didn't do anything. It just happens by itself. So we all own it together. Let's see, they are produced by the spontaneous hand of nature, and nobody has originally a private dominion, exclusive of the rest of mankind, in any of them, as they are thus in their natural state. So the world in its natural state just belongs to everybody, because there's nothing that says that tree is mine. That tree was just there. There's nothing that says that this land is mine. That land is just there and it belongs to everybody. In the state of nature, he's going to explain how property comes about here soon. So yet being given for the use of men, there must of necessity be a means to appropriate. Appropriate means to hand out or to give it to somebody. So there needs to be a way to appropriate them some way or other before they can be of any use or at all beneficial to any particular man. So for instance, land. There needs to be a way to give people land so that they can make use of it. There has to be some way, he says. How do we say that you own that when it really belongs to all of us? Well, this is how. He says, though the earth and all inferior creatures be common to all men, yet every man has a property in his own person. So everybody owns themselves, is what he says. This nobody has a right to but himself. So nobody else owns me except for me. I'm the only one who can own myself. The labor of his body and the work of his hands, we may say, are properly his. So there is something that belongs to only you personally, and that's the things that you do. The work of your hands, and the labor of your body. The things that you do and work on are yours, and nobody else has a right to them because they belong to you. You did it. Whatsoever then he removes out of the state of that nature hath provided, and left in him, he hath mixed his labor with, and joined to it something that is his own, and thereby makes it his property. So how do you make something yours? You work on it. Now that's an interesting philosophy. Make sure you understand that, and write it down in your notes. What makes land yours? If you work on it. If you plant a field and you plant grass or food, then that field becomes yours because you worked on it, and nobody else has a right to take the things that you worked on. So how do you make something yours? You work on it, according to John Locke. But the chief matter of property being now not the fruits of the earth and the beasts that subsist on it, but the earth itself, as that which takes in and carries with it all the rest, I think it is plain that property in that too is acquired as the former. So he's talking about how do people get land, because remember, this is a big deal. If you had land, you were rich at this time period, and it's still kind of true today. But he says, how do you justify that you get this land and somebody else doesn't? Why do you get land and somebody else doesn't? So he says it's the same way. You get it the same way. If you can work the land, you own it. So he says, as much land as a man tills, plants, improves, cultivates, and can use the product of, so much is his property. So as much as you can work on, that's yours. He by his labor does, as it were, enclose it from the common. So if you work on it, you take it out of everybody else's property and make it particularly yours. Nor will it invalidate his right to say everybody else has an equal title to it. And therefore he cannot appropriate, he cannot enclose without the consent of all his fellow commoners, all mankind. So he says if you are going to make a land yours, you do need everybody else's permission, because land does belong to everybody, but if you're going to start working on it and make it yours, you do need everybody's permission. God, when he gave the world in common to all mankind, commanded man also to labor, and the penury of this condition required it of him. God and his reason commanded him to subdue the earth, for example, improve it for the benefit of life, and therein lay out something upon it that was his own, his labor, and that in obedience to this command of God subdued, tilled, and sowed any part of it, thereby annexed to it something that was his property. So again, he's going back to God, that when God created the earth, he commanded man to take care of it. And once man began to take care of it, it became his, because he put something in the earth that wasn't there before. He put some of himself into the earth, and so it became his. And that's by following the commandments of God. So let's see. He that in obedience to this command of God subdued, tilled, or sowed any part of it, thereby annexed to it something that was his property, which another had no title to, nor could without injury take from him. So if somebody takes away your work, remember, then they're breaking that law of nature. So property, how do you make something your own property? You invest yourself into it. Because you own yourself, you put yourself into it, you work on it, and then it becomes yours, because the work that you create does not belong to anybody else. It only belongs to you.